Right, so this is the third video in my series about how I'm taking my idea for a business all the way through to the launch point. Part one was actually coming up with the idea. Part two was taking the idea and working out how I could market it. Part three is going to be actually about refining the offer and working out the nuts and bolts of the device I'm going to use to actually get in front of my potential clients. I decided that the best way to do this, bearing in mind that I like the idea of offering something of value for free, was to actually write a book about the topic. And if you remember, the topic is addressing the problem that people who reach about the age of 50 onwards to about 70 have, which is, can they actually spend the money they've got, or will they run out as they get older? And also, how can they actually spend their retirement in a way that feels productive and enjoyable rather than just kind of drifting? So I thought that the marketing tool would be a book. And so then I thought, well, okay, I don't have time to write a book and it has to be something of value. So I've used ChatGPT quite a lot in the past as an AI tool. I toyed with the idea of Claude, but I'm more familiar with ChatGPT, so I decided to use that to at least provide the framework for me to then build the personalization in it, because already most people can spot an AI written document. There's a number of tells which you can see in the actual text, but also it just feels wrong, and there are phrases which don't feel particularly authentic. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll use ChatGPT for the actual nuts and bolts and structure, and if you like, a very first draft, and then I'll work on it afterwards. So I basically provided ChatGPT with all of the necessary background that I thought it needed in terms of me, my style, how I wanted the book to be written, the topics I wanted covered, and put all that in and gave it a prompt that I wanted a book that would be at least 50 pages long and basically was something of value to the ABC1 target group that I was aiming at. And so I put it in, and immediately I discovered one of the things which is worth knowing about ChatGPT is it doesn't deal particularly well with large creation tasks. It's much better to segment it down. So after a few failures, I actually worked out that if I did it, I gave it the overview, and then it provided me with the chapter topics, and I went through each chapter then asking it to write the chapter. Then I consolidated them all, and I was basically there with the first draft of the book. And it was okay, but it really suffered from that weakness which I've already described about the fact that it felt like it, to me at least, that it was AI written. So then I started personalizing it. So the first thing I did was I added a couple of chapters. I added a final chapter, a first chapter, and a chapter in the middle, which personalized it. I used an anecdote about my own father as the sort of route into the topic. He was an interesting guy, so it was a good way in, and he basically is a good example of the old way of retiring, if you like. And I won't go into the detail here, but that gave me something. And then I went through each of the remaining chapters and personalized them, and it took me a day to do all of this, I would say, and it left me with something which I was quite happy represented something of real value to my prospects, and something that I personally was happy for them to read as a way into me, this topic, how I saw things, the world of sort of the second half of life. I then asked ChatGPT to come up with a dozen book titles, and I selected one, slightly tweaked it again, and I then created a book cover, which I was happy with, pulled it all together, saved it down, and basically created a PDF. And I had my book, which is something which I'm very comfortable with, the idea that doesn't feel like it's shortchanging anybody. It's something that somebody can spend a couple of hours reading and should be thought-provoking enough for them to basically be fairly receptive to a contact from me, which led to the next part of the overall offer, which is that I've now got my routine. I have my methodology of getting in front of the customers, which is through YouTube and LinkedIn primarily, possibly with Facebook after that, but those are the two I'm focusing on. I've got an offer to make them for your, I'll send you my free book on the topic. I have to write the actual copy for the contacts into YouTube, I have to write the YouTube videos, and I have to write the articles for LinkedIn, but I have the book. So the next stage then will be, okay, where are people going to go to get the book? And the answer is a website. So in the next video, I'm going to basically go through how I created the website, and that's useful as well because I used a website generator, did it myself, but then I ran into a few snags, and I'd like to cover in the next video what I did to get over those snags. And it's quite interesting, so stick around and I'll catch you on the next one.